Thanks so much. So, I mean, my first question is, every time your name comes up, people say Waters are. How do you feel about that nickname?
Oh gosh, I sort of feel that the privilege that I have. How many of you are district residents? Montgomery County, Fairfax,
Wow.
Loudoun, we serve you all. You're the customers. And to the extent I'm a water czar at all, it's only because of the service we provide to our customers and the incredible team we field. I sort of feel like they do all the work and I get to talk about it. So it's a tremendous honor.
So when you took over in 2009, DC's water system was in bad shape. There were high levels of lead. People were ostensibly pretty upset, pretty concerned about the safety of the water. How safe is DC's water right now?
It's very safe out in the main. I never say that it's safe anywhere in particular because most sources of lead are not out in the main. It's in the line that goes into a building or in the premise plumbing. So we do give on-demand free monitoring kits on how to use it. So we'll check the water in any particular place. The numbers we have, and we do testing in homes that have lead service lines, are very low. So we say that the water is very clean. But I don't guarantee it anywhere because I want to make sure in your home, online you can actually go dcwater.com. We have a map of every lot in the city, and you can look and see what information we have about the line going to your residence or your business. That doesn't mean it's up to date because this is whatever information we have, and some of these homes were built 100 years ago. But any information we have about the service lines is right there online, easy to find. So you should check it to make sure, and we will help you because we want you to be confident in your drinking water. But the bottom line is the water in DC is very clean, crisp, cool. Use it often. Wonderful.
So 2009, when you took the job, what were the biggest challenges facing the utility?
My gosh, when I started at DC Water, I have to say I was terrified. I had never worked for a utility. I only regulated them, agitated against them, and sued them in my career. And here I was now running one. And I won't go through the whole fist, but I call it the fist of what I thought we faced, which is very similar to water utilities all over the country. One is we have an essential service. Who else can say? People ask me, how many people or jobs do you support? I would say all of them. This building would have to be closed if our services weren't here. Any building has to get our service before it can open. Every job depends on what we deliver. How many lives do we support? All of them. What do they look for in the universe first when they're looking for life? Water. It's the only element essential to every life form. Why is that on the panic level? Because if you have an infrastructure service that supports every job and every life form, I'm not sure anyone else can say that, yet second, American Society of Civil Engineer grades it at a D. I know from my class that I teach that you only give a D because F is extra paperwork. The system is at a D. Your customer does not know you. Most people in 2009 had no idea where their water came from or went to when it went down the drain. 4, we had a financial system that was broke, not raising the funds necessary to solve any of these problems. And 5th, we were known as not being very innovative. I think there's a reason for that that makes sense. If you run an organization that delivers a service where you can't be wrong, so I can't try something new and have it fail like we know happens with entrepreneurs. When drinking water, you have to be right every time, and I've got a tight budget. I will stick with what I know works and what I know how to budget and what I know I have money for. So those are reasons to stick with convention. But those 5 things was the fist. It scared the heck out of me because I faced in 2009 a capital budget. Imagine this, any of you running agencies or any enterprises, public or private, that was designed to go from $250 million to $350 million to $450 million to $550 million, peaking at $650 million of expenditures over a series of straight years with a customer base that didn't know us, with a system that wasn't working well, with a finance system not set up for it. I was totally panicked. I guess the darkness is darkness before the dawn, or a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. We use that as a motivating feature to change everything about our enterprise, which is ongoing. We still have to do more. But it's been amazing for me to see what a public agency can do when it needs to.
Yeah, so I guess pivoting off of that, how did you work with a limited budget and infrastructure that very clearly needed to be overhauled?
This is my view on all infrastructure. We had a conversation last night that The Atlantic sponsored. So much of this relies on communication to people. People often say to me, well, folks don't want to spend more for water infrastructure or any other infrastructure. My reaction is, of course they don't. If you ask me, do I want to spend more for coffee or shoes or a restaurant, I'll say no. Why would I want to spend more on something unless I personally understand the value of that expenditure to me, my kids, my school, my church, my business, something that I'm affiliated with? And that is a communication connection with who is delivering that service. Nike's really good at that, persuading me to spend $300, or not me, but many people, on a pair of shoes we had to build a communications arm to connect with our ratepayers, our governance structure, all of the political and stakeholders that are here in Washington, which is everybody, about the value of the proposition. And what I've been really delighted to find out is that that was possible. We rebranded to the new brand you see, DC in a water drop. Water is life, branding what we do and why it matters. And then it's our goal to make a connection to every single person we serve so that when we do seek additional revenue to do work, they know why it matters to them at their home, in their school, in their business. And I believe people, when they're presented with a case and it is compelling, will in fact support it. And the good news is that, and you're only as good as your next game, but up to date, we've gotten every rate increase that we have needed. We have raised billions of dollars. We're investing in infrastructure in the district, doing some of the most creative projects because of the team that we've got. And that's only been premised upon a relationship with the customer.
Right. So I want to broaden out a little bit and talk about the world beyond DC. You talked about the fact that water infrastructure gets a D grade, and while we can all laugh at kind of the joke of it, right, that is no laughing matter. And absolutely, I think that's really obvious when you take a look at places like Flint, and I think that's why having this conversation right now is so top of mind for people. How many Flints are out there, do you think?
Unfortunately, there are millions of lead service lines that are still in place, not only in Washington, D.C., and Flint, but all over the country. We in the water industry know how to manage that problem. Obviously, over time, the best outcome is to remove those service lines. By the way, that doesn't eliminate the problem either, because there's like I said, we don't have lead out in the main that's in the street. The question is, what is in the service line connecting to the place? And then what's in the plumbing in the building right up to the aerator at the sink. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done at great expense, once again, making a value proposition. Now, it's interesting, though, is all the creativity and innovation we can bring to bear, because I know that's a lot of what you'll be discussing today. Infrastructure management is changing faster today than any other time in the last 100 years. If you looked at a water treatment process for the last 50 years, it hadn't changed hardly at all. Now it's changing at breakneck speed. DC Water has helped invent a water fountain that is now in testing mode. In fact, one is installed in Flint that it has two filters in the fountain. But one of the challenges of putting filters in, that's until you can get the service line replaced, is that you have to maintain them and know their condition. And we have sensors in the fountain that will beam to your phone or someone in the maintenance department's iPad the condition of the filters and whether they're doing their work for the contaminants. That's the kind of change that's possible now. The other interesting thing for the crowd here, we're a public agency. We have 12 patents. We are working on licenses and products that we're selling worldwide. We are generating revenue in every possible fashion, which includes the creativity of our team and turning those opportunities, commercializing them, generating revenue that runs right back into the enterprise and can help defray the costs of all this work to our ratepayers. The potential is incredible.
And one of the things you did when you were trying to turn DC Water around was that you guys had a green bond, correct? Can you talk a little bit about that and if you see that as a feasible way for other places to also raise money?
Sure. What I've been really fascinated to see at DC Water is that when we opened the gates to creativity, because when I said we were conservative, or not conservative politically, but going with what convention, I understand why. There's a rational reason. That doesn't mean our personnel aren't creative. In fact, think of a water system. The system that we have in DC has pieces on it that date back to the 1840s. So it's like fixing a car that has some pieces from a Tesla and some pieces from a Model T, and you don't know what it is until you open up the ground. So in fact, our folks are creative every single day in their genes, keeping this polyglot of a system running. So creativity wasn't the problem. It was how to harness it within a system where you can't be wrong. So we've created a whole research and development operation that the flower of creativity is now coming at us so fast and hard, we have more ideas than we know what to do with. That's a great problem to have, including, once you open the door, everything. I always tell my team, I want to know how to do something better, faster, cheaper. I don't care what you do. Do you order paper? Is there a better way? And finances turns out to be one of the areas where we've had the most creativity. So we're raising billions of dollars. The largest capital project going on in Washington, D.C. right now is ours. And the question is how to fund that from our ratepayers. Some of it we pay in cash. We are a AAA credit rated standalone credit, one of the few in the United States, which we've gained as we've increased. But in our finance options, I'll mention several. One was a certified green bond. Mm-hmm. People can say they have a green bond. We were one of the first that got an independently certified green bond. Now Moody's and Standard & Poor's are doing that. When we did it, we had to find a certifier in Europe. Second, we did a century bond. Our big tunnels that we're building now under the city, this huge new advancement of the sewer system, are designed to last for a minimum of 100 years. You generally don't want to impose costs on your children and their children unless the benefit is designed for them too, in which case it's fair to spread the costs. So we floated the first municipal century bond, a 100-year duration bond, because what we're building has a minimum life of 100 years. And the most recent one was an environmental impact bond, the first of its kind in the world, which is a bond that has a performance payment on either end for green infrastructure. All of those, we did a small denomination bond so our own ratepayers could invest in us. Again, the idea is do everything we can to be smart with our ratepayers, be able to tell the story for what we're doing for them, use financial instruments that in fact spread costs evenly. And as a sideline, it captures the imagination of everybody inside and outside the organization. I greet everybody who starts at DC Water. I meet them in person. I always say, get to know your job. You're going to know your job within 6 to 8 months to a year as well as anybody. When you come up with a good idea for how to do whatever you're doing better, faster, cheaper, let us know. We're going to capture it. And be careful, because we just might do it. One quick example of that, because it's so much fun. We're building a LEED Platinum plus 15 headquarters on the Anacostia. I told them they should have a LEED Titanium level for our building. But it's LEED Platinum plus, and we're doing the heating and cooling of that building from sewer thermal. It's only been done once in North America at small scale. So we're going to do the heating and cooling in the building from heat from the sewers. That's everywhere. And that was an idea that a 26-year-old engineer brought to us. We looked at it, we thought it was a great idea, and now we're building it. We believe it will work, in which case we're going to go into business offering other buildings heating and cooling from their sewers, which means your chillers are off the roof, you can put your deck up there. That's an incredible value. Or a green roof up there. That's a credible value to the owner of the building. It's good for us. It's a new revenue source. And it was a 26-year-old who brought it to us. The age is not the distinguishing factor. It's that if you got a good idea, be careful, because we just might do it.
So you talked a little bit about how you communicate information about rate hikes to consumers. But how much anger and pushback were you met with?
Quite a bit. I've done all the rate hearings. It's my view that the personal connection and relationship with the customer, and if I'm not willing to stand, I do meetings like this in every ward of the city. Every time we do rate hearings, I've done more than 70 of them. And for the most part, what I've been astonished by is how much support we get. That does not mean there isn't significant pushback. There's been a lot of media coverage in recent months about an impervious area charge that we use, because that's what we have as an analog for generating stormwater. We're building these big tunnels to handle stormwater. But it's disproportionately, arguably, hurt churches and cemeteries. And that's been a very significant area of pushback, so we're looking at it. I keep on saying, we're not perfect. We don't get everything right. If we got a challenge, bring it to our attention. We'll evaluate it and take whatever steps are warranted. I do have police officers that come with me to these meetings, because there are some folks who are either, as we were talking ahead of time, either not happy with us, or they're just not happy. Yeah. And you're the one who's standing in front of them. And one of the downsides of civic engagement these days is there's a lot of nastiness that comes along with the territory. And my reaction is, I don't question anybody's issue with us. If you've got a question and you've got a point of view, I have no issue with that. Bring it to us. We'll see what we can do. The anger and frustration out there, particularly from people who are really struggling, is palpable. And I really feel for them. DC Water's built a whole suite of programs to support lower income and fixed income customers. Many utilities are unable to raise their rates because of the challenge for that customer category. So my view, it is a very important business issue and a very important moral question to know how you're going to handle your lowest and fixed income customers, because that does enable you then to raise rates as you need to others. No one's happy about it. I don't expect anyone, well, actually I did. I always told my team, what I want to do is make such a compelling case that when I say we need $5 more a month, the customer will say, oh, how about 10? Hasn't quite happened yet, but in every meeting we want to show exactly what the additional money's for, and this is important for a public agency, that every dollar we're collecting is going farther. So we have a series of productivity measures that we produce to our board every month in a color-coded chart that shows we're not just getting more money and getting sort of inefficient and the constant criticism of public agencies, which drives me nuts, because we will compete with anyone, anywhere, anytime. We won't always win, but we'll be in the game. But we have to prove that per 100 miles, per gallon, per anything unit, that our costs are going down. So in fact, when we're asking you for more money, it's not because we're becoming inefficient. We're more efficient. We're asking you for more money because we've got more work to do. And we'll explain to you what that work is, and we'll explain to you why it matters to you. This is the best dollar you can spend, but it's our job to make that pitch to you. And we've been reasonably successful, and it's a pitch that we love to make.
Yeah. Everyone, please join me in thanking George for his time.
Thanks for having me.